Hello students, we are going to see the story, the enemy, what happens when the Japanese couple, Dr. Sadao and Hana Hoki, they faced a great trouble due to the American prisoner of war whom they gave treatment and due to which their household was disturbed, the servants left and a police officer came that day. Hana first thought that the servants had informed but she was mistaken. The police officer was from the old general messenger. The police officer was in fact the old general's messenger whom he himself, the old general, had sent for to call Dr. Sadao. And Dr. Sadao told everything very, very clearly to the old general that his intention is not to protect or to perform any anti-national activity or unpatriotic activity. It should not be taken as an unpatriotic act. It was simply a human act, a humanitarian activity. It was because of his ethics of his job, professional ethics, and so he had done. The general assured him to send his private assassins and to get him killed. Dr. Sadao waited 3 days, and the wait is very longer. You can see this has the details. And when the assassins did not come, you can see the first night he waited very anxiously that today his trouble, and his wife was much worried for he had small children, their future was at stake. So Sadao decided to get rid of this trouble, and so he accepted General's idea that whatever you want you can do to him, to the enemy. Sadao bowed but could not speak. Sure, I know that, Tom went on warmly, his big thin hands gripping the chair were white and the knuckles. I guess if all the Japs were like you. So here, after the assassins did not turn up for 3 nights, when he came there, Tom was very okay. He came after deciding the fate that Tom would be killed. The patient and the doctor are talking, and the patient had gone very healthy that time. And he says, "You have saved my life." And he says, doctor says, "You must not exert, go back to bed. You had better go back to bed." The soldier said, "If everyone had this goodwill, there will be no war." The next morning he made the excuse to go first into the guest room. If the Americans were gone, then he could simply tell Hana that so the general had directed. But when he opened the door, he saw at once that there on the pillow was a saggy blonde head. The assistants did not come. "He is asleep," he told Hana. "He is almost well to sleep like that. Now he has a sound sleep." "What shall we do with him?" Hana again asked. Sadao Suke said, "I must decide in a day or two. It will soon be over, decided. The matter will be finished. The second night must be the night." And that night rose the wind, and he listened to the sounds of bending boughs. Boughs means the branches of the trees, and whistling curtains. Hana woke too. Ought we not to go and close the sick man's partisans? "No," Sadao said. "He is able to now to do for himself." Sadao stopped her. But the next morning the American was still there. Then the third night, of course, must be the night. The wind changed. Page number 42, you see. So the assassins failed. The sound of the dripping eaves. It was rainy day. running springs. Sudhav slept a little better, but he woke at the sound of a crash. Something made a loud noise, and he leaped to his feet. And that noise, some branches broke or something, crash sound, falling sound. So Hannah also cried, and the baby woke, the small child woke, and her voice began to wail. Hannah wanted to go there and see, but Sudhav held her and would not let her move. Sudhav, what has happened to you? Why are you behaving in this way? What is the matter with you? Sudhav said, don't go, he muttered, don't go. But as it was with the child, so together they crept back into the bed, and the baby between them they took back. Yet when he opened the door of the guest room in the morning, there was the young man. So he was gay, happy, and had already washed and had saved himself. And today there was a faint color in his cheeks. So blood red. He was getting his strength. He was all, I am well. Sudhav drew his kimono. You are well, Sudhav agreed. He lowered his voice. You are so well that if I give you a chance in my boat on the shore tonight with food and extra clothing in it, you might be able to row that. Row means to move, to drive the boat. Row that little island to some island from my house, away in the sea. You can stay on that island. Nobody lives on it because in a storm it is submerged. But nowadays it is out. So that is an island which could protect you. This is not the season of a storm. You could live there safely until you saw a Korean fishing boat pass by, and Korean fishing boat will help you go to your country. They passed quite near the island because the water is many fathoms deep there. The Korean fishing boats pass very close to that island. So to that island can be your way to safety. So the young man stared at him, slowly contemplating, do I have to run away from your house because here I feel safer like that? I think so. So now said, no, you cannot stay here. It is risky for me, highly risky, and my wife is disturbed, my life is disturbed. Now your stay is unbearable, intolerable. I cannot tolerate for the sake of my family. The man nodded in perfect comprehension. He said, okay. And Sudhav did not see him again until evening. He went out and he arranged the things from the pawn shop. The second-hand shop brought a pawn shop quails, water bottles, food, etc. And the boat he tied to a post in deep water. When he came to the house, he entered as though he had just back from his work duty. And so Hannah did not suspect, without suspecting, without giving any chance that he is helping the prisoner. Because Hannah would not allow, or nobody would allow in such conditions. So he had saved the life and he was determined. There was no other way. So Yumi was here today. So Hannah told the story that she wanted to be with the family again. Yumi cried over the baby. She went on with his eyes. She misses it so. Yumi wants to come back because she misses the baby. She wants to be with the baby. The servants will come back as soon as the foreigner is gone, Sudhav said. Sudhav said, all servants will come back because I have not done any harm to them, because they are afraid. When the object of fear is removed or is gone, they will come back. He went into the guest room that night and before going to bed and checked carefully the American's temperature, the state of the wound and his heart and pulse. The pulse was regular. That was irregular, rather to say irregular. The pulse was a bit high, but that was because of the excitement and the tension. The young man's pale lips were pressed together and his eyes burned. Only the scars on his neck were red. I realize you are saving my life again. As a word of thanksgiving, Paulison told Sudhav, not at all, Sudhav said. It's only inconvenient to have you here any longer. I can't keep you in my house. That's why I am not going to help you. I am in no mood to help you, but just I want to have you gone out from my house? And he hesitated that a good deal, giving the man a flashlight. But lastly he said, yes, go with this flashlight. He gave him the flashlight, but with warning. If your food runs out before you catch a boat, he said, signal me 2 flashes. At the same instant, the sun drops over the horizon. When it is not complete dark, just give me 2 flashes. I will understand that you are in trouble, you need some help. Otherwise, signal once. If you are still there and right, signal me once. You will find fish easy to catch, but you must eat them raw because you cannot cook them. A fire will be caught, be seen, then you will be suspected, you will be in trouble. Okay. And he was now dressed in the Japanese clothes, and his blonde hair, yellow hair was also wrapped, covered, with black clothes. Now said the young American without a word, shook Sadaw's hand warmly without a speak any word. So language is not necessary to understand feelings. He was so deeply moved. And you say, once, twice he flashed and took the boat. He waited until from the shore there was no more flash. Then he closed the partition and he thought that in darkness he had gone to the island. That night he slept. And now this episode comes after the operation. You say the man escaped, the general asked frankly. He had been operated upon a week before. The general had been operated upon. An emergency operation to which thou had been called in the night. For 12 hours thou had not been sure the general would leave. The gallbladder was much involved. That was a complicated operation, surgery. Then the old man had begun to breathe deeply again and to demand food. So thou had not been able to ask about the assassins. So when he came back to senses after a week, the general was so weak, he could only say that you say the man escaped. The servants had returned and Yumi had changed the guest room thoroughly, had cleaned the guest room thoroughly, purified it with sulfur, burnt and everything, rituals done. The white man's smell they wanted to remove out. So the gardener was angry, cross, because he had got behind with his chrysanthemums, the flower season for chrysanthemums passed. So he was angry, he could not grow chrysanthemums in time. But after weeks now felt the general was well enough to be spoken to about the prisoner. But after 1 week he spoke everything about the prisoner. Yes, Excellency, he escaped. And Sadao now said, he coughed, signifying that he wanted to say anything. Yes, he escaped. But the old man opened his eyes suddenly. That prisoner, he said with some energy. Did I not promise you I would kill him for you? You did, Excellency, Sadao said. Well, the old man said in a tone of amusement. So I did. But you see, I was suffering a good deal. The truth is, I thought of nothing but myself in short. I forgot my promise to you. I wondered, Your Excellency, Sadao murmured. It was certainly very careless of me, the general said, but you understand it was not lack of patriotism or dereliction of duty. There was no lack of patriotism, but everybody wants to save life when there is a question of life. I thought only about myself and about you. And if the matter should come out, you would understand that, wouldn't you? Certainly, Your Excellency. So intentionally he had left Sadao to help the prisoner escape. Now it is very clear that he on purpose left Sadao do whatever he wanted. He suddenly comprehended that the general was in the palm of his hand, in his grip, in his control, and so he was assured of no punishment. Himself was perfectly happy. I can swear to your loyalty, Excellency, he said to the old general, and to your zeal against the enemy. I know that you are very, you can say, efficient general and you deal well with the enemies. You are a good man, the general murmured and closed his eyes. You will be rewarded. But Sadao, searching the spot for black in the twilight sea at that night, twilighted sea that night, twilighted means evening time, the sea before the darkness, he was regularly watching the flashlights, if it is one, if it is two, or if it is none, but there was no prick of light in the dusk. No one was on the island. His prisoner was gone, safe, doubtless, for he had warned him to wait only for further. He stood for a moment on the veranda, gazing out to the sea from whence the young man had come out. He was just watching out the sea of the night, and into his mind, although without reason, there came another white faces he had known. He remembered many white faces, and he knew that Americans, the professor at whose house he had met Hannah, a dull man, and his wife had been a silly, talkative woman, in spite of her wish to be kind. He remembered his old teacher of anatomy who had been so insistent on mercy with the knife. So they talked mercy, but they are not merciful, really. And then he remembered the face of his fat and slatternly landlady. He had had great difficulty in finding a place to live in America because he was a Japanese. Racial prejudice he had faced everywhere in America, hatred, and no place of love, this meaning to say. But now he had sent a message of love to the Americans through the prisoner of war, and that was all. The lady had served him through influenza, but it was difficult, for she was no less repulsive to him in her kindness. And the kindness that she showed was a kind of loan. It was not spontaneous coming from the heart. So Americans are full of prejudices, and now he was thinking how he could not take revenge, why he remembered the haggard face, the tortured face, the, you can say, tortured face of the much troubled face of the prisoner, white and repulsive. All were repulsive. None of the Americans he liked, because in them he found superiority, no human feelings, no love. Strange, he thought, I wonder why I could not kill him, because his heart was full of love and he was a pure gentleman. Thank you. This is the end of this lecture.